Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a deep look into, well, the really high-pressure life of a successful professional creative.
Yeah.
Someone living in that constant spotlight.
Mhm.
We're kind of tearing through their playbook, not just for getting stuff done, but honestly, for surviving it all.
Yeah, and what we found in the sources, it's this fascinating roadmap, really. It shows that avoiding burnout isn't about, just kicking back.
Right, it's kind of counterintuitive.
Totally. It's about engaging in things that demand maximum mental effort. Intense hobbies.
So the core idea seems to be these forced vacations. Activities that need so much focus, your brain basically has to switch off the work anxiety loop.
Exactly. It's a blueprint for sustained performance built on strategic mental escape.
It really speaks to that core tension of being a creative, doesn't it?
Mhm.
We found this great quote, kind of flipping the old messy desk, messy mind idea.
Oh, yeah.
It suggests if you're always in the grind, writing the same jokes, same songs, you stagnate. You have to go live to write about it. Otherwise, you're just repeating the same stuff you already said.
And that's a fast track to burning out, or worse. The source material is really clear. Focus only on show business, music, comedy, whatever, and people go crazy.
Right.
Creativity is like a battery. You keep drawing power, you don't plug it in, you don't just slow down, you crash.
So it's not just a weekend off, it's strategic.
It's scheduling an intelligent, intense, forced vacation. That's the only way to guarantee a full recharge.
But that grind, it takes a physical toll too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in industries like music. The sources mention older performers.
Oh, absolutely. Many who started way back, they're almost deaf now.
Really? Why is that?
Well, they came up in the honky-tonk world, no sophisticated sound systems. You had to crank everything just to hear yourself over the crowd.
So it's just loud.
Like
Constant.
incredibly loud. But now technology's stepped in-ear monitors, IEMs, they've literally saved all of our ears.
That's a huge shift. But
Yeah.
you lose something, right? That raw energy from the room.
You definitely lose some of that connection, that feeling, but it's a trade-off for longevity, for your hearing. It's a survival mechanism, really.
It's a necessary adaptation.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of survival and hearing loss, there was that funny story in the sources about selective hearing.
Oh, right. The police officer father who lost some hearing on the job.
Yeah, and he kind of figured out that his selective hearing was the secret to marital bliss, especially after the dog conveniently ate his hearing aid.
Okay, maybe a bit cynical, but it does point to something real.
It does. Sometimes under pressure, you have to filter the noise just to stay sane, whether that's loud music or, constant demands.
So if IEMs are for physical survival, what about mental survival? This brings us back to those intense breaks.
Exactly. And the key thing we found for anyone listening who's in a high-pressure field, the best breaks aren't passive, not just scrolling or watching TV.
They have to be active.
Highly active. Pursuits that demand all of your focus. So much focus. There's literally no room left for work thoughts, emails, or even remembering the laundry.
Mental displacement, that's a term.
That's it. An activity so absorbing it forces a flow state, pushing everything else out. And the most maybe extreme example in the sources, mounted shooting.
Okay, mounted shooting. Let's unpack that. It sounds intense.
It is. Essentially, you're training how to fight with a gun on horseback, but the targets are balloons. They're the perpetrator.
Balloons, okay. Are the guns real?
They use real guns, but only black powder blanks. So it's safe for spectators, safe for the horses. You're riding a set pattern, shooting these balloons maybe 15 feet away.
Wow. The adrenaline must be huge.
Comparable to that post-show high, apparently. The source mentions a friend, Kendall Insane, a 10-time world champion, just fearless. But it's not just the rush.
What makes it so restorative then, beyond the adrenaline?
It's the sheer complexity. You're managing the horse, the specific course pattern, and the shooting all at once. There's no bandwidth left to think about anything else.
A little mental occupation.
And it's physically demanding, especially if you start riding later, say, in your 30s, like the person in the source. It takes serious core strength. They mentioned doing Pilates just to stay stable.
And then there's rifle shooting.
Yeah, two-handed rifle shooting from horseback. That means you have zero hands for the reins. You control the horse entirely with your legs. That's next level integration. Full body, full mind.
So the intensity itself forces the mental break.
Oh.
It's not about relaxation in the traditional sense.
Not at all. And you see that same principle in other target sports mentioned, like archery.
Right, using a compound bow.
Exactly. Archery, bow hunting, they're highlighted as ways to clean your mind. When you draw that bow, hold steady, release. In that precise moment.
Nothing else exists.
No room for anything else. It's a complete split-second mental vacation.
I thought the part about shifting away from hunting was interesting too, after raising a baby deer.
Yeah, a white-tailed buck that apparently domesticated super quickly. It changes your perspective entirely, doesn't it?
It connects back to that idea of grounding, finding perspective outside the usual performance headspace.
Mm-hmm. It forces a different kind of reflection.
Okay, so if mounted shooting is high-octane physical focus, the sources point to pool as maybe the ultimate internal mental game.
Oh, definitely. Pool looks simple, right? Hit one ball with another.
It seems straightforward enough.
But it requires this total harmony of hand-eye coordination and your spirit. The real game is controlling not just where the object ball goes, but where the cue ball goes next, and that means controlling the spin.
The spin, like English.
Exactly. English, which is side spin, makes the cue ball curve or bounce off rails unpredictably. Then there's draw, backspin, to stop it or pull it back, and follow, topspin, to make it roll forward after hitting the ball.
Okay, so you're calculating geometry and physics on the fly for every single shot.
Constantly. 3 dimensions. Friction, angles, speed. It's maddeningly complex, purely cognitive warfare against yourself and the table.
And the ultimate goal is hitting that state of dead stroke.
That's the zone, that feeling where you're just completely in sync with the balls, the table, everything. The world just dissolves. It's like the balls become extensions of your will.
Sounds almost mystical.
It's so intense, so sought after, that the sources mention a darker side. Some players turn to drugs, amphetamines for focus, opiates for calm, trying to chemically induce that dead stroke state.
Wow. So the search for this, perfect natural focus state can actually lead people down a really dangerous path.
It highlights how powerful that deep human need for flow and undistracted focus really is, which kind of brings us to the modern shortcuts, doesn't it?
Yeah, the chemical approach. The sources cited some pretty stark numbers on Adderall.
45 million prescriptions in the U.S. in 2023.
45 million. That's up from 35 million just in 2019. A huge jump, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's massive. And the context provided points to, well, a lot of societal pressure.
Like what?
Parents pushing for diagnoses to get kids advantages, like more test time for college entrance exams, that kind of thing.
But it's not just kids.
Oh, no. The sources talk about adults who get it prescribed and become, cracked out. They show up at meetings talking nonstop, convinced they're just a better person on it, when really...
They're just overloading everyone else, the illusion of productivity.
Exactly. And then there's nicotine. It's having a weird comeback as a focus tool, right?
Yeah, framed as a nootropic.
Right. And we need to be super clear here, based on the sources. The issue isn't necessarily the nicotine molecule itself. Nicotine is neuroprotectant. It is a nootropic.
Okay, define nootropic for us again.
Basically, a substance that can boost cognitive function, memory, attention, recall relatively safely.
So nicotine can do that.
It seems so. The sources mention a Zen craze among songwriters using low-dose nicotine, maybe pouches or gum, for a little stimulant kick, a creative flow aid.
But the delivery method is the problem.
That's the huge danger. Cigarettes, obviously. But also those gas station vapes. They're often loaded with chemicals, sugar, oils.
Not good.
Leads to blood sugar spikes and potentially popcorn lung from flavorings like diacetyl, and people trying those insane 50-milligram pouches from overseas for clicks. That's just playing with fire. High risk for a small cognitive lift.
Okay, so moving away from these chemical shortcuts,
Good.
Let's talk about building resilience the hard way. Character.
Right. The sources draw this really important contrast. You've got the old way. Years of playing shitty holes with no lights, building confidence slowly, learning your craft.
The long climb.
Versus the new way. The TikTok river. Instant, unfiltered fame, sometimes overnight.
And that old way, that struggle, it builds something essential.
Absolutely. That no backup plan mentality, it creates hunger, focus, resilience. You learn to handle rejection, to problem solve. But when fame hits too young, too fast...
What happens then?
The sources use this great analogy. It's like mixing cement incorrectly. You need time, friction, the right ingredients for a foundation to set properly. If you don't let the person mix correctly, experience failure, learn patience, that foundation is messed up.
So they lack resilience later on.
Yeah, they might not handle setbacks well. Their whole identity gets wrapped up in the fame with no perspective outside of it.
Which underlines the importance of having purpose beyond just personal success, like the Mutt Nation Foundation mentioned.
Perfect example. Started in 2009, right?
Yeah, raised over $11 million for animal welfare. Spay neuter, adopt, don't shop.
And it's not just throwing money around. It's structurally strong. They give grants $5,000 to a shelter in every state every year. But they vet them first.
Thoroughly.
And here's the key detail. The creatives' parents were private investigators, so they apply those PI skills to vetting the shelters, making sure the money is used effectively.
That's incredible. It provides a completely different skill set, a different kind of grounding, investigative discipline. Nothing like being on stage.
Exactly. Real structural perspective, completely outside the ego bubble of performance.
Okay, and finally, just to round things out with something completely unexpected. Chickens.
Huh. Yes. Who knew chickens are basically ferocious raptors?
It sounds crazy.
But it's true. The source points out they're literally dinosaurs that survived the asteroid impact. We think of them as, I don't know, docile farm animals.
Right, teching corn.
But they're incredibly protective of their flock. And yeah, they'll hunt down and devour mice like tiny feathered velociraptors. It's kind of brutal.
Wow, a wild reminder that nature is, well, wild. Even in your backyard.
Totally snaps you out of your spreadsheet brain.
And that leads nicely to the simplest hobby mentioned, just painting folk chickens. Finding joy in something you're admittedly terrible at.
It's about using a different part of your brain, finding fulfillment outside of what you have to be good at. That balance again. Professional intensity, personal grounding.
So this whole deep dive, it really comes down to the strategic need for escape, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Whether it's the hyper-focus of mounted shooting, the quiet concentration of pool, or even just understanding your chickens, you have to strategically deplete your focus on non-work things to fully recharge that creative battery.
And as we think about that older model, the slow climb, building character versus the instant rush of the TikTok river, it leaves us with a big question for you, the listener. We've seen the strategies needed to survive the costs of the traditional grind, but the sources are clear. Nobody's really figured out how to navigate this new digital environment helpfully, especially for kids.
It's uncharted territory.
So if instant validation and constant connection are the norm, what are the long-term costs going to be? For focus, for resilience, for that cement mix of character we talked about? And maybe more practically, knowing this, how can you build your own protective barrier? How do you protect your focus, your foundation in this always-on world? That's something to think about.